Hey folks, Debbie Heiser here. This week, you do not want to miss this episode. We are talking with Meghan Garcia-Webb. She is a doctor from Boston, Massachusetts, who works with people as a life coach and a medical practitioner to help them with weight loss. We dig into all sorts of things about what it means to be healthy, how it's easier than you think to be healthy, as well as we dive into GLP-1s and what that means for people. So listen in, you don't want to miss this one. There's a moment in life when we sense an opening, where the life we've built begins inviting us into something more. Not because anything's wrong, but because we're ready for a deeper, truer expression of who we really are. This is the Lit Up Life podcast, conversations for those who are no longer interested in pushing, proving, or performing, and are ready to lead from truth, alignment, and inner authority. I'm Debbie Heiser, and here we talk about the inner shifts that change everything, how belief, identity, and energetic leadership shape the way you live, work, and choose. This isn't about becoming someone new, it's about coming home to who you already are. Hello, and welcome back to the Lit Up Life with Debbie Heiser. I am your host, Debbie Heiser, and thank you so much. I have so much gratitude for all of you showing up, listening every other week, and really engaging with the podcast. So thank you for doing that. And as I say every week, and I really mean it, I'm really excited to have my guest, Meghan Garcia-Webb, on today, and we're going to talk about health things. Many of you know I've been on a little bit of a health kick this year and really looking at health in a different way. And I'm really excited to have Meghan on here. And I'm going to have Meghan introduce herself, and then we're going to get into a conversation about health and all things with that topic. So Meghan, introduce yourself.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Debbie. I'm so excited to be
Absolutely.
here. I am a physician. I'm board certified in internal medicine, lifestyle medicine, and obesity medicine. I'm also a weight loss coach, and I have a YouTube channel that's called Weight Medicine with Dr. Meghan. And I talk about all things health and weight related all day, every day.
Great. And I'm super interested. I've listened to some of the things that you have out on YouTube and came in a timely manner, by the way. But when I think about like what got you into the work that you're doing right now, like why weight loss? What's your story about that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I have been a primary care doctor for many, many years. I went to the University of Vermont for medical school, which is an amazing place and so primary care focused, and really, really loved treating, like getting to know my patients and hearing all about their lives. And I just kept having the same conversation over and over with people about, how to help them with their weight. And they'd come back in a year later and nothing had really changed.
Mm,
And it seemed to me like nothing, like it wasn't an information deficit. Like people had all the information. I gave them books, I gave them handouts. Like there's so much out there, right? And I also looked around and I thought, I don't think anybody else, I don't think this is working for any other doctors either. Like we all had the same hurdles that we were trying to help our patients and not really getting through. And so then I decided to look at, how else could I help my patients? Because really, the majority of their issues were really due to their weight. So if I could help them with their weight, it's such an efficient way to treat people. And so I got certified, did my boards in lifestyle medicine, I did my boards in obesity medicine. And then really the missing piece was becoming a life coach, which,
mhm.
someone in the Boston academic community, like that
Yeah.
seems a little bit woo woo, but it really was, it's not something that we learn in medical school. And I always tell people that coaching is all about getting yourself to do what you say you actually want to do.
Yeah.
And that really helped me have these conversations with patients that were so much more helpful and fruitful because we're not just focused on information. We're really talking about the mental hurdles that are keeping them
Right.
stuck that they don't even notice. So that's what brought me to really focused on weight. And then I also opened my own practice too, so I can do weight coaching, weight medicine. I can do all the things that insurance doesn't cover in one place too. So yeah.
Okay, and so tell me, Megan, like when you think about the demographic of the person that you work with both men and women. Do you like what's kind of the average person that you work with?
Yeah, I work with men and women. Majority, Majority of patients seeking help anyway are women.
Yeah.
But I work primarily with women, but I'm always happy to work with men too. And they're usually busy professionals, busy high achievers. Some people are high achieving, moms, 24/7 moms who have a lot of chaos going on. Some people are 24/7, lawyers, other doctors, business owners, but really people who think of themselves as high achieving and they can't get a hold of what's going on with their weight.
Yeah, so I asked that question because it represents anybody and everybody that's listening, right? So,
Yes.
and the reason I wanted to do that is I want to find out from you, like, when you think about health, define for us what your definition of health means. What does that mean to
Mm.
you?
Yeah, I think I can think about health in a variety of ways. So there's your physical health, meaning your vital signs, your labs, how well your body's mechanically functioning, for lack of a better word. And
Yeah.
then there's all the non-physical aspects of it. So how happy are you with the life that you're living right now? Like, can you do the things you want to do? Do you have healthy relationships that support, your personal development? Do you have a sense of purpose? Um, do you have like a forward looking a perspective on the future? Are you excited for your life, right? And so I guess that's a maybe a long-winded way of thinking about health, but that's one of the reasons why I like primary care is you really get to talk with patients about all those aspects.
Yeah. And such needed right now too, right? Like I live in a town that I feel really blessed that we have a lot of alternative type of medicine that happens here and as well as what some would consider woo, right? But I don't consider it woo. But other things too that people don't necessarily like I was introduced to colonics here for the first time, right? And some people love it, some people don't, whatever. But it's just all these like alternative ways that are here. And so I want to chat with you a little bit too about I have to be honest with you, and I've just got back from a conference, so I'm really direct right now, but like I
Yeah.
am so sick and tired of hearing eat healthier, work out more. It's all about calorie intake and outtake because particularly a woman that has been through menopause and is still in
Mhm.
menopause because you never leave it, right?
Right.
There is a shift that happens. I mean, I used to have hardcore workouts where I was doing 100 push-ups, sit-ups, in a 25 increment around a track. And I couldn't do it anymore because it created such stress in my body. And so I'm so tired of hearing that message. And so it's been really refreshing to hear the message shifting a little bit. Now, what you put in your mouth is important. I don't mean it that way, but what would you say has been the biggest shift that you've seen around health and particularly in weight loss, but like in this idea of health and weight loss and keeping your weight at an optimal level? Because that's really what I hear you saying is, your body is built to have weight at an optimal level to make sure that all of your organs are functioning and all of the things that are happening in the mechanics. I love that analogy. What would you say is kind of the biggest shift that you've seen over the last decade with that, or have you?
Yeah, I think there is a shift and it's still happening. It's still not totally shifted yet, but I think in the medical community, we're really treating obesity and overweight as more of a disease versus, something that people should just like a personality flaw, or these terrible
Right.
things that we used to say to patients, right? And for me, I really think when people have weight that they don't necessarily want to keep,
Hmm.
there's so many reasons why they can get to that point. So it's really not kind of a
Yeah.
one pipeline kind of issue. There's genetics, there's lifestyle, there's also social circles, there's habits, there's how you grew up, there's medications, there's job issues that can create extra weight. And so I think we are moving away, I would hope,
Yeah.
from that idea of it's calories in, calories out, just do these things and you'll be fixed or fixed in quotation marks, but that it really is a heterogeneous set of circumstances that creates a place where somebody is not happy with their weight.
Yeah, that's so wonderful to hear. So thank you for doing that. So I have to ask the proverbial question, and then we're going to take a quick break and come back. That I know before we got on, you talked about that being healthy is easier than you think. And It's interesting because I want to share a personal story that you might giggle about, but I also said I was open to dating, but I wanted to date a man with hair because I was married to a bald man for 30 years. I have nothing against bald men, and I would date a bald man. But I ended up getting a dog who's asleep right here on my chair with me. And that has made me so much healthier because I mean, I was active to begin with, but now I'm more active than I was because I'm taking
Mm.
him hiking every day for 3 to 5 miles or, those types of things. So it can be healthier than you think. What I found is the lifestyle that I grew up, my mother, like exercise was a necessary evil, right? Like it wasn't
Mm.
considered fun. It wasn't everything revolved around food because we lived in the Midwest and that's just how things
Mm.
were. And so I'm interested to find out, like when you think about healthier is easier than you think, I love that. You should trademark that, by the way. I know I had to go through a mental shift to make that happen, along with their starving children in whatever country that your parents said that there were starving children, so you
Right,
had to clean your plate, right? Like
right.
these ingrained messages. And I know as a coach, that's some of the work you do. Tell me more about this idea that it's being healthy is easier than you think.
Yeah, I think we're such an all or nothing culture in America. So we have this very not health promoting way that is our default, which is it's go, 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 productivity, be producing as much work as possible. And oh, by the way, your breakfast isn't important, your lunch isn't
Right.
important, and you can just grab convenience meals. And especially for women, it's like, oh, and by the way, you should, help everybody else. But if you do anything for yourself, that's very selfish, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of the default. And then we have this, oh, well, if you're going to get healthy, it's going to be a project. You're going to have to track everything and you're going to have to figure, and like make yourself a science project. And I also think like who wants to do that?
Yeah.
That just seems so trading one really unpleasant circumstance for an equally unpleasant, totally opposite circumstance. And I really think I love to zoom out and think like I think the rest of the world is doing things a little bit better than we are. And no one in other countries that I've been to recently is so obsessed with protein. Like we're obsessed with protein
We
here,
are
right?
obsessed with protein.
We're
Holy cow.
obsessed, and that is kind of a whole nother. I feel like it's uh, a diet fad that's been wrapped in sort of wellness culture or something. But I think it really can if you kind of step away from thinking of yourself as a project that needs to be fixed, and you start to think about, okay, like how do I actually want to live?
Yeah.
Do I want to count calories every day? I never ask people to count calories. And I've had so many patients lose weight on medications, not on medications. They're never counting a calorie.
Yeah.
Do you want to do it? And there are some people who love to track things. So these are good things to know about yourself. But do you want to be someone do you like those really hard workouts? Or do you want to do something that's maybe a little bit more gentle? Like there's no exercise police, there's no food police, there's only what you like. And what the data shows is, especially with regards to eating,
Yeah.
there's no one diet, for lack of a better word, that's better than the other. The only thing that really helps is that you can be consistent. And
Mm,
so I think it's really important that whatever change people are making, that it's something that they like, that they feel like they can do forever. And I think it doesn't have to be hard. Like one of the if I could just like push her like a remote control and get everybody in America to do this one thing, it would be like make half your plate fruits or vegetables. Like
yeah.
that's whatever you're eating, just shove half of it off
Yeah.
and just put like a bagged salad or like an apple or some and you don't even, somebody told me the other day, they're like vegetables are hard. And I was like,
Oh, they're
that
so easy.
is not true at
Yeah.
all. Um, so it can be like that. That alone makes such a difference. And it also, I like to focus on things that aren't about like restricting
Yeah.
or like shoving things away. I like to think about like what can we do more of, right?
Yeah.
We Fruits and vegetables are delicious. There's always something that we like in either of those categories. And so what can we have more of? And that's just an easy way, an easy change. You don't have to learn any new recipes, you know, just a
Yeah.
quick fix.
I love that. And I want to go back to because something that you said, I think is so prevalent that when we feel like we have to fix something, right, that gives the impression that there's something wrong with you. And I know from 0 to 7, right, childhood development, things happen, we get these messages, but we were born not with a tag on us that said something's wrong with us, right? Like
Right.
it, and so many times I know that was a big shift for me is going from that I have to fix something because there's something I wasn't a boy, right? Whatever I heard my dad
Right.
say, right? Like I didn't get my boy again when my sister was born and interpreting that differently as a 5-year-old
Right.
and really unwinding that. So I know you work with people to help do that, such similar to me. So when I
Mhm.
think about like stepping into health, like just as a quick side note, I mean I kind of got more into, I've always been healthy, I've always eaten healthy, and it's funny because I don't realize I do until people visit and they're
Mhm.
like, I love coming to your house, we eat so many vegetables. And I'm like, really? I do? Like, okay, great.
Yeah.
And so you tend to forget until you look through other people's eyes. But I thought a couple of years ago I was having a heart attack. And it
Oh.
scared me because my best friend who's very healthy had 4 stents put in, like a shocker that she just had chest pain one day walking and found out she had to have 4 stents, was in the hospital the next day, like quick, right?
Nightmare.
Yeah, totally. And so I've always been kind of conscious of that. And so I thought, you know what? I'm going to listen to what's happening. I was feeling this pressure in my chest. Go in, as you know, I called my nurse practitioner, who's my OBGYN, because I didn't have a primary care physician. She's
Mhm.
like, first of all, Debbie, go to the ER, but second of all, get a primary care physician because I'm not equipped to do this. I'm an
Right.
OB, right?
Right. Yeah.
So I go in, they do all the tests, nothing's wrong. Well, later I found out I had 2 ribs out of place and it was pushing my sternum in,
Mm.
which was what
Mhm.
the pressure was. But it scared me enough, Megan. And going through menopause, I was heavier than I had been ever, even
Mhm.
pregnant, 9 months pregnant. And I could not, no matter what I was doing, it was not working.
Mm.
So I know from listening to some of your stuff, we're going to take a quick break and then we're going to come back because I want to ask the question and talk to you about GLP-1s because I made the decision. I have no prescriptions. I wasn't even on any kind of hormones. I have since changed that. My mother died of breast cancer and it was hormone positive, so I've always been very nervous about it.
Mhm.
And I have to tell you, going on hormone replacement therapy has changed my life in the last 2 months. We'll talk more about that too. But deciding to go on a GLP-1 was the biggest benefit, and I want to talk more about that and talk about some of the stigma that you help people through with that, because I know it's been a stigma for me. I haven't been really vocal about it. And it's not that I'm ashamed of it, but I just know people, trolls come out, and I don't really care what other people say, but I don't even want to open myself up to it half the time. Right. So
Yeah.
I want to talk about that a little bit when we come back from this break. And I think we could spend 2 hours on a podcast together, and we might have to do a second
100%.
follow up of, but we'll be right back, folks. I want to pause for a moment because if you're listening to this, you know we were not meant to do this work alone. Build Her is the community I created for women who are building meaningful lives and businesses and want to grow without burnout, self-abandonment, or shrinking to fit. Inside Build Her, we gather monthly for real conversation, intentional teaching, and grounded connection with women who get it. This isn't about hustle, and it's not about fixing yourself. It's about being supported as you lead with clarity, confidence, and intention. So if you feel the pull towards a steady, honest, and expansive community, you're welcome here. Find the link in the show notes or join us at thelituplife.com/buildher. Okay, folks, thanks so much. And we are excited to have Meghan here. We were just talking about how being healthy is easier than we think, putting 50% of your plate, fruits and vegetables. We started to get into the idea of fixing ourselves. I was talking about my story of having a heart attack, and I just made the decision that I'm not on any prescriptions, but had made the decision to go ahead and do a GLP-1, doing it very thoughtfully because I knew that if I continued to rate the scale, and I get that it's just a measurement of our gravitational pull to the earth, but like it kept going up and I couldn't get a handle on it no matter what I tried to do. And so I made that decision. It was the best decision of my life. The biggest thing I found, Megan, and I think I have seen some of this on some comments, even on your YouTube page or your YouTube channel, is that the food noise. Like I had no idea how much energy was being sucked away from my mental capacity, from my emotional capacity, everything based on like this I mean, my mom was on every diet possible, like cabbage soup for every, like everything, and
Yeah.
just how much mental capacity that took. And so I want to talk to you about kind of that. Like, what do you see your clients go through, your patients? And I know that there's people that do it without GLP-1s, and I think it's great. I don't have any judgment for anybody in how they choose to do it. I think everybody's on their own journey. But when you look at GLP-1s, well, just tell me like kind of your thoughts on it. Let's go there.
Yeah, I think they're just the most remarkable tool that we
Yeah.
have now in a way that, we didn't have this before. And when I look from the lens of somebody who's been in primary care
Mhm.
for years, it's, for a lot of people, you're really burning daylight with their health. It's like, yeah, I would love to keep having this conversation with you over and over and over about how to help you with your weight, but also like you almost have diabetes. So like
Yeah.
maybe we can add this in and really help you in a way. And I also think that the medication for many people facilitates these other positive changes. I think there's people who they have tried everything. They're really discouraged. Trying one more thing just feels like they're just failing ahead of time, right?
Oh, so true.
And so these medications really enable them to devote that energy to eating in a way that they are more happy with, exercising more, and they feel like they're getting a return on their investment, like they can
Yeah.
see the scale going down with the medication, so it gives them more permission almost to invest that time and energy.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that, Megan, because I did find some things change for me. I wasn't a heavy drinker in any way, shape, or form, but it's interesting because I rarely drink now, right? Like I had a cocktail this weekend, but when I do that, it's so funny because then I wake up in the middle of the night and I have a little bit of acid reflux, right? It upsets
Mhm.
my stomach, and that's from the GLP-1. So it has
Mhm.
shifted some eating habits that I have, as you know, like eating too many carbs or too much sugar causes like like symptomatic, not symptoms, that's not the word I'm looking for, but some reactions to it. And
Yes.
so it has changed. And I ate fairly healthy to begin with, but it has changed the way I eat. Now, I will tell you, when I was in England and Scotland, I ate more chips, not so much the fish. I love fish, but like more of the chips, and I
Mhm.
lost weight. And it was because, and I walk a lot, but it's very different food, but it's also very different the way people exercise. So when
Mhm.
you think about some of the trends that you have seen with patients, and I love that you talk about it being a tool because it is such a great tool. What are you finding? Like, how are you finding that it's shifting things for people? Like some of the examples I gave you.
Yeah, so I love your example about alcohol because that is a big one for a lot of people. They're just like, it doesn't even occur to me anymore.
It
And
doesn't
so
even sound
that
good.
doesn't even sound
Yeah.
good, right? So that is a really big one for people. I also have people that maybe they are not happy with their weight and they've had like a binge eating disorder in the past,
Mhm.
or maybe I should say like a compulsive overeating because depending on the platform,
Yeah.
they don't like us to use that language, but people with more compulsive overeating, it can be really helpful to just turn that off in a way that, we have other medications like Vyvanse that can be really helpful, but it's another one that's very powerful to help combat that. And a lot of times people they do find what I love about these medications is they really strengthen that sensation of fullness
Mhm.
for people because what I have found is that really nobody knows when they're full,
Yeah.
just nobody. And also everybody's doing five different things while they're eating, so even if they were full they would have no idea because they're not even paying attention to their body. So it really forces people to pay attention or there will be negative consequences. And so people learn pretty quickly like, okay, I know what foods I can't eat, and I know I need to like eat a little bit slower and pay a bit more attention to my body.
Yeah, I'll never forget going to a workshop one time, and a good friend of mine, Amy Midstoke, who she was a nutritional therapist here in town. She's now a great author and a published author. And she had us chew a walnut 75 times. Like we had to count, right? And it was so interesting to me how the flavor changed in the walnut. And like after a while, you're like, I can't chew anymore, right? Because we're so used to chewing three times and swallowing something.
Yeah.
And so It's so interesting. That is so true how we live in this world of multitasking. That's one of the reasons I love to go to Europe. It is an event when you eat, and
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
conversation, and it's a 2 hour to 3 hour long process. It's not something that you're quickly, just shoving down food. Now, granted, I'm on vacation, so it's a little different vibe there too. But when you think about that and how it does shift for people what to do, where do you find people mentally get blocked about GLP-1s or any of these tools that are medication?
Like they might not want to use them or
Yeah.
they're on the fence. Yeah, I think a lot of people think, well, I'm just going to do this for a little while and then once my habits get better, I'll go off. Which I totally get. I mean, I understand that people do not want to take medications, but unfortunately, it's just not how the medications work. You do have to be on them and there's really good research now that shows like the weight does tend to come back on. Now, is there going to be that 1 in 100 people that the weight doesn't come back on? Yes, but that also means that 99% of the people the weight does come back on. So that's a big hurdle for people. They're just like, oh, I don't want to be on something forever. But I also like to think of you'll be on this forever, but we're preventing so many things from happening. We're preventing joint pain from getting worse. We're preventing you from getting diabetes. We're preventing you from getting high blood pressure. If you have high blood pressure, maybe we can take away some of your blood pressure medication. So I think, so I like to look at it that way in terms of it's both treating, but also preventing things for people.
Yeah,
Um,
thank you for saying that, Megan, because that was one of the big defining moments for me was when I
yeah.
thought I was having a heart attack. I thought if my weight continues to go up, I'm putting myself at risk. So the risk of putting a synthetic into my body and the risk of the other, it's like, you know what? I'm not willing to take that risk of continuing to gain weight, then losing mobility, all of those things that create longevity, right? Because if I have longevity, I want to have sound mind and sound body, and
Yeah,
that's important, right? And so,
absolutely.
how do you work with people? Because I'm assuming people's goals kind of shift.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you
Every
see that happen?
Well, it's so funny. I always ask people, why is their weight a problem for them? Why are they here? Because if your weight's not a problem for you, then it's not a problem for me. So what brought you here, right? And then people are always very cautious. I also ask them about, do you have a goal weight in mind? And I'm not really somebody who, like, I don't want people to weigh themselves every day unless they
Yeah.
want to. Some people love doing that. But I also think, especially for women, like we can make the scale mean some very mean things about ourselves. And so I like to kind of use the scale, but also use other ways of looking at our weight. But when I'm initially talking with somebody, it is a helpful, just factual marker. And people are always like, well, I'd really love to be this, but I'm going to be realistic and say that. Or they're like, well, I don't want to be what I was in college. Like that seems crazy, but maybe I'll do this. And I think, like, I think it's just good to be honest with yourself. Like maybe you do want to be, where you were comfortable for most of your life. And it's okay to say that to me. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
never going to shoot somebody down or for saying anything, but I think people are so used to not succeeding with their weight loss. So it's like, well, if I can just make a little bit of an improvement, I'll be happy. But I think with your health in so many different aspects, it's important to know what you really want.
Absolutely. And this next question I'm going to ask you, I know it kind of depends on the person. But I know I've seen some people where they've lost a tremendous amount of weight in a short amount of time. So this is my own messaging, which for
Mm-hmm.
me doesn't feel very healthy, like for my health journey. So I've done it over a longer period of time. And also because I feel like, I don't know, there's that face, right? Do you know what I'm talking
Mm-hmm.
about?
Yeah,
Like that
yeah.
happens
Mhm.
with people. And the so when you recommend a GLP-1 to someone, what are some things that you suggest for them to look out for from a health perspective?
Yeah, so we're always talking about the goal, and usually people they're not coming to me saying they want to be a BMI of 15 or something,
Right.
which is good. So, and this is also a plug for anybody thinking, it is really important that you're monitored appropriately, that you really like the clinician who's prescribing this for you, that you feel like you have a safe place to go for the medication because there's many places to get these medications. And not all of them I feel like are so patient centered.
Yeah.
So, so your question was, what should people be looking out for?
Yeah.
And I think side effects are a big issue for a lot of people. Usually they're what I call annoying but manageable,
Hmm.
but you do want to be keeping an eye. I don't want somebody calling me, when they've had GI issues for 10 days. I want them calling me much earlier than that. So I think it's important to have a place where you feel like you have that kind of connection, where you
Yeah.
have that support. Um, and then I also like people to, monitor how your clothes are fitting because
Yeah.
sometimes the scale doesn't move, but your belt size changed
Absolutely. Yeah.
or your rings aren't fitting. And I think there's so many other ways that, you know, that we can measure our progress. And, I always think if you're walking down the street and you're feeling great, it's probably not because of some number on the
Right.
scale that you saw. It's because you have energy and you feel like you like how you look, you like how your clothes fit, feel like, you slept well. There's so many other things that have absolutely nothing to do with a number on the scale. And it's really about quality of life for people.
Yeah, and Megan, I didn't ask you this before we got on, but I'm going to ask you now. So I know sometimes there's state licensing, but when you're working with someone, can you prescribe medication state to state, or does it have to be where you're at? Or so anybody listening could contact you and chat with you about this and do some of this work with you?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah.
So, for prescribing, currently I'm licensed in Massachusetts. So, for people in Massachusetts, I can prescribe the medication and I can do all the coaching. I would say at least half my practice is people from outside of Massachusetts who are already on a medication, but they still feel like their lifestyle isn't supporting their health
Yeah.
yet. So
Okay.
a lot of times people like there are some people who, the medication really kickstarts everything for them and they get that positive momentum.
Yeah.
And then there are some people who are like, this medication's great, but I still have a lot of, I feel like I have a very chaotic relationship with food, or like, why can't I get myself to the gym? Or, what do I do about this food noise? And so I really love helping people on all those other aspects because it really helps, people, these medications are hard to get,
Yeah.
right? And they can be really expensive for people. And I really want them to be getting the best results out of them. And so that's where I really like to help people tweak how their lifestyle is so everything can work together.
Yeah, and you know what I find sad, and I know for some people it does work, but I was pretty healthy. I had great markers on everything, and so to be able to have insurance pay for it, it doesn't always happen,
Right.
right? And but I know that there are ways that someone can work with someone to get insurance to pay for it, but I think it's really sad because there's so much that can be controlled, but we won't get into that because that's a whole nother podcast about
That is
pharmacists or
certainly,
pharmacy. Because like
yeah,
I even find it like really strange that for my hormone replacement therapy, I can pay for it out of pocket cheaper than if I would have to pay more to pay a deductible to, it
right.
just is crazy to me. And
Ridiculous.
pharmacists are taking it in the shorts because they're offering it to people, at a lesser rate because they're not getting reimbursed. And so anyway, that's a whole nother, we might have to have a whole series on that one, Megan.
Yeah. Yes, the medical injustices are so
Yes.
real,
No.
so real and widespread for
Yep,
sure.
absolutely. So, Megan, I know I've said this and we could continue talking for a long time, but in wrapping this up, if someone does want to work with you, I know we'll get your website and everything, but what's the best way to follow you to get into your circle?
Yeah, absolutely. So they can go to my website, which is weightmedicinemd.com. And there's a place there you can sign up for a consult with me, and I'll tell you more about specifics about how I work with people. And also, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is Weight Medicine with Dr. Megan. You can write me a question there. I answer patient question or viewer questions every week. And so I would love to hear from anybody.
Fantastic. And then we'll put those in the show notes too, so that everybody can hang out with those. But I also want to find out from you, and I kind of warned you up front, if we were to go out to your favorite streaming platform, what would be like your life song, your favorite song, something you listen to frequently to get yourself into a high vibration?
Oh my gosh. I am such a Swiftie. I really am. I was a late to the Swiftie movement, but I have a sister who's 11 years younger than me. And so she really brought me into that world. And so it would probably, I think probably my most played song like a year or two ago was like Anti-Hero, which I
Oh,
was
yeah.
like, just think she's such a great songwriter.
Storyteller. And Megan, we have a lot in common because my younger sister is almost 11 years younger than me, and she is a huge Swiftie fan and who has brought me onto the Swiftie
Oh my
train
gosh.
too.
So you know.
Yes, and one of my regrets in life was I said no to going with her to a Taylor Swift concert. Now I wish I would have.
Oh my gosh. Well, that you know what? She does a lot of concerts, so
I
there's still
know
time.
it may happen, and I'm from Kansas City originally, so we have that tie too with Jason or not Jason Kelsey, but Travis. So
Yes,
yeah.
100%. That's wild.
Okay, so now kind of on that same realm, tell us about a book that you would recommend. I always love to do that. I add to my book list all the time and I'm an avid reader. And I just want to know like what was a book that was impactful to you or that you're reading right now that you would recommend?
Yeah, I have two books.
Okay.
One is super short. I tell all my patients to read it. It's called Food Rules by Michael Pollan. You can read it in like a half hour. It's so short, but I really think it's one of these books that, if people just like do the book, if you just like read it and you're like, I'm just going to do exactly what he says, like, there's no way you won't feel better. It's just, again, I think it's one of those things like we're all looking for this
Yeah.
magic bullet. And I'm like, it's pretty much all in here. You could just go page by page, and if you do it, you'll feel great.
Okay,
Um,
perfect. And then what's the
and I
second
also
one?
I'm rereading Salt, Sugar, Fat,
Ooh,
which I really think does such a great job of talking about in a very interesting, compelling way, the food industry. And because I also feel like all of, all my patients, clients are really taking on a lot of shame about like, why, haven't I been able to fix this on my own? But the reality is like there are these huge systems that are built to make food as attractive as possible. There are many like so many PhDs and labs in the Midwest that are designing food to be delicious, right? And so I think everybody in America is really fighting with one hand tied behind their back because they're not aware of all these other forces that are at play that, are sort of invisible to them. So I think it's such a good book.
great. I'm going to have to pick that one up. So, yeah, absolutely. Well, and thank you so much. And actually, before I let you go, and I want to share this with all the listeners too, there's a really good, it's kind of cheeky, but this really good documentary, you might have seen it, and I think it's called The Sugar Story or something like that on Netflix.
Okay, I haven't. I'll have
It's
to
either
check it out.
Netflix or Prime. I think it's Netflix, and
Okay.
it's probably about 10 years old. But this gentleman from Australia or New Zealand, one of the two, look at me, I'm not even quoting everything correctly, but he has been off sugar for years,
Hmm.
decides to go back on sugar for either 60 or 90 days just to see what the health implications are.
Oh gosh,
And
yeah.
he has all these tests ran before, and then like 30 days in, 60 days in, 90 days in, and the results are staggering. Like
Oh my gosh.
staggering what happens to him. And then he goes and visits like indigenous tribal areas that didn't used to have like Pepsi or Coke products. And then they brought
Yeah.
them in, and all of a sudden people are dying of kidney disease and all of these things that they didn't used to have. So they kicked him out and then went to some place in Kentucky where people feed their babies in baby bottles like Mountain Dew, like the worst dental area
Yeah.
ever, and
Right.
just what sugar does to your body and how it's as addictive as cocaine. Like it is, and it's a fascinating documentary if you geek out on documentaries, because I love documentaries. So I would listen to it. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, what a good recommendation. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. But Megan, thank you so much for being here today. And for those of you listening, please go out and check out Megan's work. I think we need more and more medical folks in the world like yourself doing this work with people. So thank you for what you do.
Thank you so much for having me. It was such a thrill to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So folks, join us in a couple of weeks and I please do us a solid if you think somebody needs to hear this, and I think a lot of people need to hear this, make sure to share this with other folks and make it a great week. We'll see you later. Ciao. Thank you for being here and for choosing to spend your time in this conversation. If this work resonates with you, subscribe to the podcast and stay with us as we continue to explore what it means to lead, grow, and live with intention. Let's build your version of the lit up life. I'll see you in the next episode.